Welcome to Riders Live. I'm your host, Riders. Today I have a special guest on the platform, other known as Napira. So please introduce yourself to the listeners of Riders Live.
Hi, Riders Live. How are you guys? My name is Napira. I go by my stage name Nari or Napira Cherie. I've been knowing Riders for a lifetime, and he is one amazing, selfless, think about others, productive persons that I know.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about doing the indie scene in the 90s. Can you
Uh,
take us back to can you take us back to this time period first? And what was the music like?
oh my God. First of all, I can't get with the new stuff. I'm so sorry. It was something special about the 70s, 80s, and 90s and the music. And then I think the 90s was like the last of the golden era. That's just my opinion. Everybody might not agree with me, but the 90s had music that made you feel. It didn't matter if it was hip hop, if it was blues, if it was jazz, if it was pop. The music just had beats that made you have to get up. It made you have to dance. The music then was mood changers and baby makers. That's what I would say. Or it compelled you to do something good or bad. Because out in the 90s, you had still conscious rap, but you also had the edgy rap that was coming out. But it made you move. And in this time in life, we need something to make us move.
Okay. So, what are some of your musical influences and how did affect your approach or shape to making music?
Okay, biggest musical influencer in my life would be uh Stevie, Minnie Riperton, Sade, Anita Baker, um, Stephanie Mills, and I'm missing one person the one who sing As We Lay. What's her name? What's her name?
Sure, Pepsi Rally.
Those people, they had so much soul, and I'm not leaving out the Sam Cooks, the Marvin Gaye's, the Teddy Rileys, and he was more newer, or the Teddy Pendergrass. I'm just saying those people, and of course my tops are Janet, Prince, and Michael. So, but all of them, it was eclectic. For me, my mom was a R&B Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is her number one person. And my name is Napira Cherie, and she named me after my Sharia Moore. So uh, Stevie was all in my house, and Sam Cooke was my grandmother's favorite. So Sam was always in my house because my mom wanted to emulate her mother. And then when you go to my auntie house, you hear nothing but the blues. I mean, all day long, nothing but blues. So in my brain, there's just a little bit of everything that influenced me. But then on top of that, my family were singers. My dad, my mom, they both were in groups in the 60s and 70s. And some of their groups made it. And some of them, and my parents like kind of fell out right before the groups got big. So what I can say is music was always around me and it's always influenced my thought process. It's like the very vibration of how I live. It's what makes me happy.
Okay. So, you made a demo. What was your first step deciding to put a demo together?
Okay, so
And did you have a clear vision of what you wanted to achieve?
I did and I did. And at that time, I think I accomplished what I was going for.
What was the
Even
first step? What was the first step?
my first step was I wanted to do shows and I needed them to be right. And I didn't want to just be regular. I wanted to be like the Monies and the MC Lights. So you knew you had to do it right. So that meant you had to go to the studio, a good studio. And I knew I didn't have any money. So what me and a group of my friends did was open a candy store. We
So
started
that was your first step, opening a candy store.
my very first step was opening a candy store.
That's
So
what's popping.
if I know I need to get to the studio and I'm broke and in college, then I know I need money. Well, and matter of fact, it was right before I went to college. So it was my last year of high school. So my senior year of high school, I need money to go to the studio. How I'm gonna get the money? We still in school, we still moving around. So a group of my friends, I pitched it to them. I said, hey, look, what if we start selling candy so we could support the vision? So we took $18 and bought a box of M&Ms and a box of Snickers at that time. We split it between the three of us, and all three of us sold it, took it, went back, bought some more boxes of M&Ms and Snickers, sold it to all our homies in high school and all that other stuff until we got enough money to get a variety of candy. And then we went to one of the parents and said, hey, look, can we use your house as a candy store house? We're trying to raise money for me to do my
Stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop.
that part, right?
Oh no, that's how Rough Riders roll.
That's how we was rolling in the early 90s. And so once we flipped the candy bars and had enough to get more and more candies, we didn't immediately go and try to work on my album. We went and bought more product, put it in the store, started getting all the way to the point where we were selling the nachos with the cheese on them and the bag. And after we was making more than enough, everybody was in agreement with me that it was still for me to go to the studio. All my friends around me at that time believed enough in me that we had one goal and one dream. So we all sold this candy, and the mama was in agreement with us to let us have the store. And then we took that money and we went downtown to Grand Studio, and that's where we recorded.
Okay. So, what was some of your biggest challenges you faced in the recording process? How did you overcome issues like limited studio access or budget constraints?
I'm gonna say the reality is that you got really good at your craft. You had 8 tracks, and 4 of them off back is only for music. Unlike this digital area that we live in now, you just had to know your stuff, and you couldn't make a mistake because then you couldn't just edit and put back. So if you mess up, you got to go all the way from the beginning and do that stuff all the way through from A to B and almost be completely flawless. You can't even have a baby talk or cry or a dog bark in the background because you got to start all over again. And that don't matter if you're in the basement or if you're in a major studio producing and somebody walked in the room in the middle of your recording session. Things were so limited when we were dealing with DATs back then that you only had 8 tracks to get this all on. So what it caused me to do is get really, really good at my craft and really put my words to memory. And you stand in the mirror and you practice a lot in front of your family so that when you're on tape and when you're recording, it feels live. It doesn't feel constructed. And so when people hear it, they can feel you. It's not what we got going on now where you just write and then go in, and if they don't like something, they punch out, punch in. You have to know your stuff.
They punching out and punching in like Glass Joe on Punch Out.
Right. It wasn't like that back then. You really had to know your stuff, and then don't have a vision for like ad libs and stuff, because then that meant you was only 2 tracks for your lyrics, and then 2 tracks to put any specialty effects that you wanted to try to get in, even if you was like beating on the drum or making something sound like rain. So you really was limited in the variety that you had. Like now, I do love it in the sense that technology has advanced, so you don't need all the things that we had to do. But what it did do was give a disservice to the craft, because now people are not really knowing their stuff, or not as good as they used to be, because they don't have to home in their craft, and they don't got to practice like you back then. You spent hours. When you said this is what you wanted to do, if you wanted to be a musician, if you wanted to be an artist, a rapper, a singer, a poetry writer, or a poet, you had to give true time and dedication. That's what you did. If you went to school, when you got off of school, you was somewhere for hours practicing. So
Okay. So how was you getting beats? Was they getting made on the spot? Tell us about that.
so beats were cool at the time because you're coming out of the 80's era. And so a lot of people knew how to use the 808 tracks and the new gadgets. And the beats were more simple then. You didn't have to have a whole lot of stuff. It wasn't as intricate. You needed that melody. And you can put like 4 keys down on the keyboard and put it over a really good drum beat, and bam, you got a track. And again, the people's skill set then was different. What's weird now, the more and more we've gotten to this technology era, we don't have as many skilled track layers, even though yes, the tracks have advanced and the sounds and what you could do. Right then, you were able to take a simple track, and there was plenty enough people making them that you could get one.
Okay. I know I got your demo when I was on a ship in the middle of the world. Shout out to you. I don't know how I got it, but I got it. So how was you getting your demo out to listeners and industry professionals?
At that time, everybody knew somebody. And it was always a showcase going on. So I'm going to say that showcases saved my life. If you were on the college campuses, they were showing, hey, sign up for this showcase. Hey, this going on downtown. This going on at the club. This going on at this spot. So it was an underground world that was thriving. So the only thing you needed to do was make sure you was out there. And when you was out there, make sure you had your tape, or be ready to perform live, or make sure you had like a flyer, because we wasn't doing business cards and we wasn't all that fancy yet. You had something in your hand, your tape, your car, or yourself. And so at that time, I was out there, I was visible. And then you'd be surprised, because you know how we say the word on the mouth or the word on the street carries. You had people who was promoting you and you didn't know they were promoting you. Oh man, yeah, oh girl, good, but did you hear my girl? No, I ain't never heard so-and-so. They was like, okay, here go her number. So street cred carried a lot back then.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Um, in getting your demo notice, do you have any memorable stories that you can tell us?
I can tell you a couple of things. One thing is that I would never, ever do the poor man's copyright again. That's number one. That's my most memorable, because I've watched my music get stolen. It's always best to be legit. And it's not that poor man copyright doesn't work or it's not legit. It just is a lot harder to hold up in the court of law, and these people got money. So if you got a real thing and you got a real craft, it's always worth paying it was $15, $20 back then, and it's like 20, 30, up to $50 now. Get your stuff registered at the Library of Congress. Get your stuff registered on any of the publishing things like BMI. But what I'm saying that's really, really important. My most memorable story was years later when I had went from being a street rapper to a Christian rapper. I didn't care about my old music anymore because I had given my life to Christ and I wasn't doing that particular music. And I am in the beauty shop and I hear a version of my song come on the radio, but it ain't me.
Wow.
And one of the girls looked at me and was like, "Nay, ain't that your song? Wasn't you singing that for years?" So it's easy for your stuff to get stolen in this industry. So what I would tell you is to keep your stuff protected. Now, the reason why that's memorable to me is one, my stuff was that good that somebody loved it enough to steal it. So that was like a backward slap, but an honor at the same time.
Okay. So, what kind of feedback did you receive from your demo, other than knowing people were stealing it?
I got nothing but good reviews at the time.
Okay.
Everybody who heard it always was, "When you dropping? When you dropping? When you dropping? You a hidden treasure. Why everybody don't know about you? And you just as good as MC Light." Those are the things I heard.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. Like when I got your demo when I was in the middle of the world somewhere, I was like, I can do this. And I know somebody that's doing it. I could holler at them so I could go through the proper channels to make my stuff manifest. So I thank you for that very much. But what I want to ask you is how how did it impact your next steps moving forward as an
Well,
indie artist?
it gave me that last little bit of hope. You know, all of us when we're out there, you hope the world want to hear you. You hope that you're good enough. You think that you're good enough. But when you get the energy from the people and they vibing and they rocking with you, it make you know that you're good enough. And it's not that you're saying you're looking for somebody's outside approval. What it's saying is that you got the stamp of the approval of the people, so keep moving forward.
That's right. How important are the people to an artist, to an indie artist?
We're nothing without you. We're just bedroom closet makers that sing to ourselves in the shower if we have no audience to present our music to. So if the audience ain't rocking and the audience ain't listening and the audience ain't moved and the audience ain't growing and the audience ain't developing and the audience ain't wanting more, then you're really just another average Joe that's singing in your closet.
Okay. So, what were the most important lessons you learned from the process of creating and promoting your demo?
Two things. You know that song by Mo3? He say, "Everybody ain't your partner. Everybody ain't your friend." You learn the higher you go up, you got some enemies. You don't know they're your enemies that though, right? That's the hardest thing because I've been in groups. I've been in situations where I got kicked out the group or people back talking or they divide you like the Temptation. Right when it's time to do a show, and then all of a sudden I ain't going on if I don't get this, and who make you think you better? I've even done shows when I was with a crew where we all discussed we were coming out and we were going to dress this way and do like this, and we had some big wigs that was coming out to see us that day, and then they was like, "We ain't doing all that." But at the day of the show, or people showing up late, and you don't realize later until it's like a lot of haterism. So what I would tell you through the creative process is you got to stay close to God and you got to stay true to yourself and you got to keep your discernment up because that's your biggest downfall in the industry, not knowing who's going to be pulling on your leg to pull you down.
Straight like that. So, What advice would you give aspiring indie artists today who trying to create and distribute their own music?
This is what I would say. I would say, one, keep the vision ever before you. Try to limit as many distractions as possible. Pay no attention to the naysayers. Let the naysayers' energy be your energy to thrive. Also, what's really important, which was the very first thing I said on this podcast, go get your capital up. Because you got to have money so that you can make certain things shape. So you might not have all the money, but you need some money to start. So I don't care if you went and worked at McDonald's for a little while. Just make that reason for going to work at McDonald's is because I believe in myself. And then I'm going to take that money and make some stuff happen. Because here's the deal. Right now, everything is electronic. It don't cost that much. You could do a lot of things on your own. But even if you had a distribution deal, you still got to come with a little bit of money to the table. Even if you got to pay the engineer to make sure that your stuff is sound and crisp, you got to come with a little bit of money on the table. People willing to work with you, so that's not the problem. You don't got enemies. When people believe in you, they will help you, but you got to have something that you could bring to the table to help them.
Okay.
To help you. So you helping them help you.
Okay. One hand wash the other.
Absolutely. And then at the end of the day, everybody gonna eat. That's the cool part.
Okay.
And then I would say this: always be fair.
Okay. How do you feel about the demo you put out?
Best work ever. Only thing I'm hoping is that this new transition that I'm doing and going into blues versus just rapping, that it can top that energy. Because at that time, I was a ball of fire. I was skilled, I was honed, I was poised, had the talent and the gift, had the support of my friends, and the doors was wide open.
Okay. What impact did that demo have on your music career?
It let me know that you could do it and anything is possible, even if you a South Side girl from Chicago.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming on to Ride Us Live. Um, if you could leave some with the listeners, please do, and plug all your social media where people can reach you and find you.
On IG, I'm just Napira219, and on Facebook, I'm Napira Cherie. My stage name is Nari. That page is open, but to reach me immediately, Napira Cherie or Napira219. And if I had to leave any message for anybody, no matter what distractions that the world give you, keep going and put God first.
So this has been another episode of Ride Us Live. Peace.